what you did to these children.
Well, yeah, like I had exposed myself, and I had inappropriately touched them, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and just, I don't know, just walk in there and touch them.
And we are about to watch the parole hearing for this monster who, that's all he would do. He would wake up in the middle of the night and, just inappropriately touch them. Now, it's my hunch that he was a relative. A lot of that information is not clear. But what is clear is that he was sentenced to just 5 years in prison. And he was only just sentenced 2 years ago. And already up for parole. Now, what comes out in this parole hearing is that he denied doing any of this since the survivors, the little girls, pointed the finger at him. As a matter of fact, he denied it up until even just a couple of months ago. And we will hear from the grandfather of the survivor where he points out just those facts. Yet here he is up for parole. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, Mandalorians, he has a low static 99 risk score, so we shouldn't worry about a thing. Now with that, let's jump in.
Garrett Queerly, 442650.
Thank you. This hearing is being conducted in consideration of a parole application for Garrett Queely, inmate number 442650. He's serving a sentence of 20 years, execution suspended after 5 years, followed by 20 years of probation for illegal sexual contact with a minor. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of July 10th, 2025. There is victim input in this case. There is also an offender accountability plan. It has been reviewed and shows that Mr. Queely has completed the short track sex treatment program, Voices, in the Second Chance Education Alliance. He is also currently participating in Embracing Fatherhood. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the SRT falls within the low range risk for recidivism. And utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low range. Mr. Queely, it's now your opportunity to express to the board why you believe should be granted parole, and you may begin.
Okay, I do have a learning disability, so I just wrote something down. So if I'm looking down, I'm just reading.
No problem. Thank you.
So I wrote that I do not want to be someone who hurts people and breaks the law. I'm truly sorry and regret what I did. I have to live with this regret for the rest of my life. I feel very bad about taking advantage of someone and playing down the crime like it's not that bad, or this won't do any harm to the person, just to feed into my own distorted cognitive thoughts. I hope this person was able to get any help that they needed. There is no crime in the world that is too small or where there's no victim. I've become more spiritual in my time here. That has helped me to just be a better person in general. It taught me that no one is perfect and that you can always ask for help. I have a really good support system of family and friends to help me get any kind of help that I might need, or just to talk to. I'm going to do any program possible to help me better myself. My parents have set up a therapist to help me talk through any and all life circumstances, and a psychologist to work through my own childhood abuse. I have a very good work ethic, and I love to work to provide for myself and my family. I was told by my boss at Connecticut Transit to call him as soon as I come home. So I plan to do that first. If for some reason that doesn't work out, I want to contact the Connecticut Operators Union. I have experience in operating machines. If that doesn't work, I have my own landscaping business also that I had about 30 customers, and my dad's been in contact with them all, and they all said that they want me to call them as soon as I come home. I really do enjoy being outside and doing yard work, and I'm confident I can rebuild that again. I have learned how important it is to have a healthy balance of work, family, and personal time. And I want to continue going to church when I come home, as it's something important to me. I'm going to make time for my family and make time for my own personal time. I don't want to go back to working nonstop and wearing myself out. I'm going to continue any programs I can take, going to therapy and seeing my psychologist to continue bettering myself and learning about myself. I'm willing to do whatever is necessary to prevent anything like this happening. And I really do feel terrible about what I did, and I'm really embarrassed by it. With all this being said, all of the self-work I have done and all the time spent thinking and reflecting on myself, this time was definitely much needed. I am not the same person I was when I came in. So I'm hoping that I'm a good candidate for this with all the work and self-reflection that I've had. And like I said, I am very sorry towards the family. I'm not that person anymore, so.
Well, we appreciate your opening statement, Mr. Quealy, and we also appreciate your taking time out to write down your thoughts so that you can express them to the board. We appreciate your force and your apology towards the victim. So what's going to happen here today is each of us will take an opportunity to ask you some questions. When we are done with our questions, I will turn the hearing over to our victim's advocate. The victim will provide us with some input on her experience from this whole ordeal, and then we will deliberate and give you our decision. Understand? Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. So Mr. Sosowskis, we'll start with the questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So you said you've had some time to think and taken some programs. Have you thought about why you committed these crimes?
So I've learned from the mental health program that coming from like my own childhood abuse when I was younger, I get it had really put a lot of distorted thoughts, fantasies, urges in my head. And growing up, I never understood what they were. Why am I thinking like this? What's going on? And unfortunately, I didn't really know how to come up to ask for help. When all this came out, I been more open with my parents, my therapist, and like I said, taking this the mental health program here had really explained a lot as to what was going on with my life. So now I'm able to, I was able to get tools and stuff from the program to either recognize certain situations or to prevent something like this from happening. It was, I guess, just feeding into my own distorted thoughts. One of the things was it's called PIG. They called it PIG. It's problem of immediate gratification, and it's when a person is fighting an urge to have what they want instantly. But it's never too late to turn back from that thinking. And I guess a lot of those thinking comes from the cognitive distortions, which refers to faulty thinking due to past trauma and abuse. And so that's what I've been talking a lot about and trying to understand. And before I did come in, I was talking to my therapist about it, and she was helping me when she's at home still ready for whenever I come home to continue.
So it would be the same therapist that your family has set up for you is the person that knows your background and the history of all of this?
Yeah, and they had my mom had set up a psychologist that specializes in I think it's called EMDR therapy. It's something that they use for a lot of like abuse or trauma that has happened to people when they were young, and it helps them to get, I guess, over that trauma and move past it.
Right. How do you think your crimes have impacted the victim in this case? You've taken the Voices program, right? Did they talk to you about victims?
Yeah.
What do you think they had to experience?
Well, You know, like I had wrote in my paper that, you know, I was abused when I was younger. So for, you know, the victim herself, I obviously can relate to what she had went through. And, you know, I'm really mad that I, you know, did that to someone knowing how it felt myself. But it obviously didn't only affect her, it affected, you know, the whole family and, um, a lot of, you know, I'm sure embarrass or confusion or fear or whatever. You know, it's all things that I felt for a while, and I hope she was able to get help because I wish I had gotten help when I was younger to understand what happened, why it happened.
Can you talk a little bit about the sex offender program that you completed while you were incarcerated? What did you learn from that program?
So yeah, that's where I've gotten a lot of the cognitive distortions, that pig.
Okay,
There was also it's called SUDS. It's seemingly unimportant decisions. It's choices that you make that, you know, it could have good intentions. You're trying to help someone, but it could ultimately put you in a bad situation to where, you know, like people, places, and things that can trigger you. So you don't want to be put into a situation where you might have triggered thoughts. Like for instance, when I was younger, a lot of abuse happened when I was on my swim team in the locker room. So spending all this time thinking stuff like how did, you know, a lot of these thoughts start bottling up in my head was, you know, if I went to the pool and I'm in the locker room to change, that's when a lot of things. So I would, you know, in that instance, I would just avoid locker rooms. I wouldn't, you know, I don't want to go into somewhere where it would start triggering all these bad thoughts and putting myself or someone else in harm's way.
okay. So have you thought about when you're released, whether it's now or in the future, how you're going to remain crime-free and really make sure that this never happens again?
Well, I'm, you know, talk to my therapist as much as I can. I'm lucky that she is that she allows me to whenever I have a situation or I need to talk real quick, I can text her and she usually gets me in that day. So I'm lucky to have her. And then my psychologist to figure out my own childhood abuse. And like I said, I'm more open with my parents if I, you know, have a thought or confusion or something. I can always talk to them to talk stuff out. And I'm, you know, I'm willing to take any programs that are offered to me. I'm more than willing, as I've shown while I'm here, to continue bettering myself. I'm, you know, I want to learn about myself. I want to learn how stuff happens and why it happens. So I feel that if you have the why, you can prevent things. You can always figure stuff out and navigate to around situations that might be triggering or harming.
Okay, you talked about maybe going back to your old job. Were you driving a bus? Is that what you were doing?
I was a diesel mechanic, so I was just working.
So you weren't
occasionally.
around the general public, like people from the general public, you're with employees.
No, we stayed in the
Okay.
I was in Hartford.
Okay, I got it. Okay, in your opening statement, you said that you're not the same person now as you were when you came in to be incarcerated. Can you talk about how you've changed? What's different about you now?
So when I first came in, you know, I don't know how else to explain it other than, like, you know, I felt like I was a scared little kid. Like, you know, even before, you know, coming in, I just felt confused and clouded, scared, dark. It just, nothing made sense. I tried to be the happiest person I can be, you know, smiling and laughing all the time, but it's deep down, I wasn't happy. I was angry, I was confused, mad, and I didn't know why, I didn't know what. So, you know, going through all this and having, you know, this come out and opening up about it, being able to talk about it, it's proven to me that, that I can be stronger. I can be more confident in myself. I know no one's perfect, and that, you know, everyone might have, you know, some kind of problem or troubling situation in their life, but you can always ask for help. I think that's the most important thing, is to always reach out, always be able to reach out. If you have people out there, whether they're family or friends or doctors, like, no matter what situation, how embarrassing it is, you need to be able to ask for help. And I can do that now. I can ask for help. I can talk. I can get frustrations out. I can get confusing thoughts out. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Because like I said, no one's perfect. We're all, you know, the same. Um, and it's just being more confident. I've thought about everything, and you know, like I said, going through something similar, it hurts me every day that I did something to someone that was done to me, and it bothers me. But I can't really change the past. All I can do is you know, obviously be sorry, which I truly am, and to move forward and better myself so this doesn't happen again.
Okay. You know, I read about you're studying the Bible and attending religious services, and you also mentioned it in your opening statement, so it sounds important to you. Has that been helping you, and you plan to continue? Like you said, do you know what church you're gonna go to? Do you have a real plan to continue that?
Yeah, so I've been going to the Jehovah Witness service here.
Yep.
And it's I had first started going to Catholic. I was brought up Catholic, but it never made sense to me. I never understood it. I would go to church and I wouldn't feel anything because I didn't know what was going on. And I met someone here, and he had started explaining the Bible to me here, and I had asked him about the Jehovah Witness service, and he said, "Well, why don't you just come and see what it's like?" So I did, and you know, that was over a year ago now, and I've been going every Friday. It's for 2 hours, and I look forward to it every week. I get stuff out of it. They have videos, and they take the time to explain things. You can ask questions and not feel embarrassed, and which was a big thing for me. You know, like I said, coming with a learning disability, I have trouble understanding stuff. So sometimes it might take like rewording a question 3 or 4 times for me to finally answer, and they're more than willing to do that. They just want you to, you know, to learn. And my parents had looked up a church in town in Plainville, where I can go, and so I
Okay.
definitely plan on doing that. I actually been talking to my daughters about it, and they've been asking questions and been putting interest into it. And so far my oldest, she said if she can, she wants to go to church with me to learn about the Bible, and it's helped me just be a better person. It's helped me how to think, how to react to certain situations, how to, you know, be more calm and not so angry all the time. And it's really been a big help to me.
Okay. Let me ask this, what do you think happens if you're released and you don't comply with the sex offender registry or the conditions of your release? What do you think happens then?
If I don't comply with like the
Yeah.
rules and stuff,
Yeah, what would happen?
I would think I would just come back here,
Yeah.
which
And
I
you
don't
have-
want to.
You know, your sentence is, I know you have 5 years, but you heard what they said, it's 20 years, execution suspended after 5 years. Understand what that means?
Not completely, no.
Well, I mean, you know, that 20 years is still there. That number is still on the paper, as I'm saying. If you don't comply and you know, there's problems with sex offender registry, there are a lot of requirements. You're gonna have to do things and report to them.
Yeah, I'm willing to do all that. Like I said, I don't have anything to hide now. I'm able to be straight out and open, and you know, whatever rules they have, I follow. I can follow. never been in trouble before, and you know, in school and stuff, like I'm just someone that follows rules. I like structure. I like routine. I like a guideline. You know, ultimately that's kind of what I like about going to church with Jehovah's Witnesses. Like they have, you know, guidelines and you know, almost like an outline on what's going to happen. So I can, it's almost like a rule book, you know. So if, you know, the rules when I come home, you know, I'm going to follow them. It's
Yeah,
right there.
I'm trying to just let you know, it's regardless if you go home now or later, the rules are very strict as far as this goes. You're gonna have to really pay attention. And, you know, they're gonna send you letters in the mail, you have to respond. There's all these different things that you're gonna have to do. And you
Yeah.
can't miss dates, do anything. You're gonna end up having all kinds of other problems.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about your release plan. That's the last thing I really wanted to talk to you about. I read that you would like to live with your parents, and then you mentioned you know, you're gonna go back to work. You're gonna try to go back to work or maybe landscaping. And then you're gonna see your therapist and psychologist, and then do any programs for parole that you have to do. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to what you're thinking about doing with your release plan?
Well, like I had wrote too, I've learned that it's good to have equal balance of work, life, personal time. Before I was working nonstop. I worked at Connecticut Transit from, you know, 7 to 3:30, and I'd show up to work on my trailer, and right from work I would go do my landscaping until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And you know, doing that 5, 6 days a week, it completely burnt me out. And, you know, unfortunately I was very active with my kids, but it always came to like late at night or on a Sunday. So it's only one day out of the week, and I miss, you know, some stuff. So, I want to be able to have a balance of all that. So I'm not wearing myself out and running ragged and tired all the time, and, not being able to put, you know, 100% into either my own life or my kids' life.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to have a good balance of life on top of, you know, all the other things I had said earlier.
Okay. Just, you know, those are really all the questions I have. The only thing, I know you mentioned you want to spend a lot of time with your kids. I mean, just keep in mind that because of your offenses, there may be some restrictions to certain things. We'll have to figure that out as you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Keep that in your mind now, that some of these, you're not going to just go right out and then just be around. You know, there's going to be rules and things in place so that people are protected. Do you understand that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand.
All right. So I don't want you to get in your mind that, you know, you're just going to go right back into like, it's not going to be like that. Things are going to be a little different. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I don't know for sure, but I would, I've been told by other people that, you know, it's not going to be the same when you go home,
Yeah, it's not.
but ultimately they don't want to keep you away from your kids. So whatever they put in place, I'm willing to.
Yeah, you can always work with the court, well, you know, just see how it all works out, but it's not the end of the world. There's ways to apply for visitation, different things, but you just got to follow the rules, and then you'll be all right, you know. So those are all the questions I have today, sir. I'm going to see what my colleagues have to say. We'll go from there, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sosowskis. So, Mr. Cleely, I have a few follow-up questions. I appreciate your sharing with us today all that you've learned in your programming. And when the officer interviewed you in preparation for today's hearing, you said to her that you weren't really sure why you did what you did. And so today you're saying that you believe it's because of your own sexual abuse.
Well, yeah. Like, so at first I wasn't sure. I didn't understand why it had happened. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to what I was thinking, why I would want to do something like that. And then, like I said, when I've taken the program, not really just the mental health program, it was, you know, all the programs you know, played a part into it. It made a lot more sense as to why I was thinking what I was thinking, why I would react to what I was reacting to. And then ultimately, you know, again, from the mental health program, how to prevent certain things from like that happening. So yeah, it was at first, I didn't know why.
Okay. Well, she interviewed you not too long ago. So, I mean, at first I can understand, but she
Yeah.
interviewed you maybe a month ago, 2 months ago in preparation for today, and you said that you didn't know. So what
Yeah,
I asked that specific question because I was interested in knowing whether or not you ever disclosed to your parents that this sexual abuse that occurred.
I have now, I've been open with them
So you
about
never
it.
said anything in the past.
Not before, no.
Why
I
didn't
didn't.
you?
I was, it was confusing. I was scared and embarrassed, like, not that I have anything against, gay people, but I was afraid that they were gonna think I was gay or, when the stuff that happened to me, it was, I was questioning myself, like, why, I don't mean to get like into detail or anything, but like, I was 10 or 11, and when he was doing what he was doing, it was, my body was, what I learned from the program, my body reacted to it. It's not necessarily something that I liked. So your body can react to something and it not necessarily do what you want to happen or what you like. So, it really threw me off as to, at that point, as to, well, if I'm not gay and I don't like men, why did my, body react this way? And I was, like I said, I was really confused and I didn't know how to ask for help. I really do wish I did ask for help, obviously. I don't know.
No, I get it. And so when you were 10 and this happened, have you ever participated in any other kind of therapy to talk to anybody throughout your life? Because it seems a little convenient now. I have to be honest with you that, all of a sudden you're coming up, I did this because this happened to me. And that's how it seems. And I'm not trying to negate your own experience. And I appreciate your sharing. And I'm sure that it took a lot of work to get to that point where you could verbalize, this is what happened. So with that, I am curious to know if you're able now to say exactly what you did to these children.
Like
Because
what?
before you were saying that you just exposed yourself and that, what one of the children was saying you didn't do. So.
Yeah. So I did do that. Again, it was ultimately feeding into my own, messed up thoughts and urges. It was.
No, I understand. We're not
Yeah.
talking about you. I'm asking you if you're capable of saying what you did to these children.
Well, yeah, like I had exposed myself and I had inappropriately touched them, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and just, I don't know, just walk in there and touch them.
And so I'm just curious, I would like to know what impact do you think, I heard you speak extensively to my colleague about the impact that it had on the victims, or it may have had on the victims. What about the trust that between the adults, or them, their parents blaming the people that were supposed to be responsible for them allowing their child to be victimized?
That is one of the things that I'm, mad at myself about and embarrassed, because they put their trust in me to house their kid or take care of them or watch them, and I completely took advantage of the situation. I broke their trust, and I might not ever get that trust back, but I hope that for their own sake that I learn with forgiving, that it's easier for you to move on. Like, with my own abuse, I've been so mad and angry all my life, and I was mad at this person, for what he did to me, and I don't want them to go through life being so mad and angry. Like, I'm not looking for their forgiveness for my own sake, for for them, that they can move on from this. And
No, I mean, honestly, you really can't predict how a victim of sexual assault will react. You know, unfortunately, some people become promiscuous. Some people, you know, gravitate more towards the opposite sex. I mean, there's so many different things that could transpire. They go to drugs because they don't know how to deal with this kind of abuse. You know, there are a lot of variables that could transpire. So anger may be one piece, but actually trying to get some kind of resolution as to why me? Why'd you pick me? You know, that's more difficult. That takes a little more work. So my last question to you is, just that quickly. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Mr. Rodriguez, and I know it will come back to me eventually. So I'm gonna just.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Basically, first I want to acknowledge that, it looks like you've been working and doing some work on yourself and, trying to figure out what's going on. The challenge that I had when you met with the parole officer was that you still kind of minimized your own responsibility in this by, you woke up, the medication drove you to this, your abusive background drove you to this. I had a challenge with that kind of language that you use. I think you said that you were prescribed some medication. That medication led to some thoughts, and then after those thoughts, you woke up in the middle of the night and you were unaware of what you were doing. I guess walking around in a daze, and somehow that led you to the room. And I'm having a little challenge with that. Because it's almost like you're not taking full responsibility for this. You are taking some responsibility. Of course, you're blaming it on the medication and your sleepwalking, I guess is what you're saying it is, right? I'm guessing. That's what I saw something about narcolepsy in your documents.
Yeah, I don't want any of that to come up as come as an excuse for my actions. But I do take full responsibility. I made the decision. My doctor had said that medication had a play in it, so that's why he had taken me off. I just wanted to, let them know that I was taking steps beforehand to help, stop all this. But ultimately, I know deep down, I have this, this problem, these thoughts, these urges, these, fantasies that are wrong. And, I'm going to continue talking about it and continue working on myself to make sure none of this happens, because whether it was for medicine or my narcolepsy that I ended up, being diagnosed with, it doesn't matter. I still was awake and could have stopped. One of the other thing that the mental health program was, they had a picture of you can, fall down into a hole and you can go deeper and deeper, but ultimately you don't have to wait till the bottom to turn around. Like, I can have an urge or a thought, and I don't have to give into it. I can go run to my therapist, run to my dad, my mom. I can stop. Like, if something's triggering me, I can talk about it and we can figure out what triggered that. Why did the thought come into my head? It's, but bottom line is I made the decision. I did the wrong thing. I don't want any of that.
I'm glad you're sharing it that way.
Yeah.
And the way you shared it with the whole lot.
I apologize about that.
It seemed very much like you were minimizing what you did. And the other thing that's interesting for me is that what happened to you, happened to you when you were a boy, 10 or 11, I think you said. Between 10 and 11, after all this abuse had happened, were there other occasions where you had these fantasies and you thought of doing something but didn't act on it?
I did.
Why did you act on it now? Why did it happen this time?
From what my therapist told me before coming in, was for whatever reason that trauma can stir up at any time in your life. It doesn't necessarily because something bad happened or you have bad urges or bad thoughts, or it doesn't mean that it's going to intensify or you react to it, all along. It can get, I guess it was almost like I gave up, like I got tired. I couldn't understand what was going on. I couldn't understand
So if I
why.
understand you, if I understand you correctly, you were having these thoughts along the way. You just never acted on them at that particular point. This is the one time that something set you off and you acted up and you acted on. That's what I'm understanding you say.
Yeah, that I had acted on. I had these thoughts and it just never made sense. And like I said, it was like I just gave up.
I don't have any additional questions at this point. My colleagues have done a very good job of asking a lot of questions. Madam Chair may have figured out what she wanted to ask.
I did.
I will turn it back to Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. So, Mr. Quealy, I wanted to double back because I know that you talked about your children. Why do your children think you're in prison?
I told them it's, because I guess everything that I kind of told you guys, something had happened when I was younger, and it was bad. And it put a lot of bad thoughts in my head, a lot of confusion, and I didn't ask for help. And I didn't talk to someone about it. And then ultimately I reacted on those thoughts. I had inappropriately touched someone. I had, exposed myself, which is not okay. It's
You told
something
that to your 10-year-old child?
not, I like, not minimize, but like put it into their perspective.
Yeah, so that
Yeah,
they could
because-
have at least some understanding of why
Yeah,
daddy's away.
because they do come here to visit, so they know where I am. Like that, and my oldest, she's smart. She catches on to things. She asks a lot of questions, and my therapist had always told me just to
Be honest,
be honest, but for their age too.
be age appropriate, yeah.
Right,
PG,
right.
make it to, to G. Okay. All right. So at this time, we're done with our questions. We're going to turn the hearing over to our victim's advocate, Mrs. Williams. And so, Mr. Quealy, please do not speak at this time. Your speaking portion is over. And we ask that you listen and not interrupt. Thank you so much. Good morning, Ms. Williams.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, panel. I do have the victim on the line with me, rather the victim's guardian and grandfather who would like to address the board today. One moment. And if you can hear me, you can unmute at this time and you may begin with your statement.
Good morning, members of the board. I am representing my granddaughter, which I am her guardian. This may not be in exact order, but these are my thoughts. I oppose the early release of inmate 442650. Before sentencing, a plea deal was made, and I feel that the inmate already received an early release by accepting this deal. In fairness to my granddaughter, the original sentence, if there was a trial, would have been 20 years. And I feel that 20 years would have been more appropriate for the crime. However, I'm asking that you do not release him early at this time. It would be like giving a lesser sentence and not fit for the crime. Please keep in mind that my granddaughter is going to live with this for the rest of her life. As it is, my granddaughter had to be in trauma therapy for 1 year after everything happened. And now, anytime she is asked if she wants to sleep over a family member's house or a friend's house, one thing always sticks in her head is that something will happen and something will go wrong. And for me, that's very hard to watch, to see her to go through this, and not sure how long this is going to affect her. I'm kind of wondering, is it going to affect her whole life? The whole family has been affected by what has happened here to my granddaughter. And I have all of my family's support, and she feels that. I feel that if the inmate is released early, what are we showing my granddaughter? that even if you do bad things and you get punished, it just goes away. One of the examples that she had told me, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but she saw two kids in school that were fighting, and they got suspended for 1 week. And then, after 2 days, the principal didn't call up the parents and say, hey, they can come back to school now. It's going to be okay. So I'm asking the board that you guys please do the right thing and stick to the agreed plea deal, which was 20 years suspended after 5 years. We need to hold people accountable for their actions and show that the court system works. Again, one of the things I wanted to go over is that how hard this has made it on our family. I've been married to my wife now. It'll be 3 years in June. Prior to that, we've been together since 2019. And it's very difficult. My wife's side of the family still believes that my granddaughter made this whole thing up. So I'm wondering, what do they know over there? Because what I just listened to, if they had listened to that, then it would be clear to me that they would understand. That whole side of the family blames my granddaughter and thinks it's her fault that the inmate is where he is. And I have a very hard time with that. At this time, I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your statement. You may mute and continue to listen. Thank you, panel.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Thank you to the Vic for the courage to speak up. So at this time, we're going to go into deliberation. You may listen, please do not interrupt, and we'll give you our official decision. Mr. Stauskas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to thank the victim first for coming forward and having the strength to make that statement. This is a very difficult case to read the facts about. And the nature and circumstances of this is very challenging. So Mr. Quealy is here today. So he's 35 years old. He has no criminal history prior to this. He rates out low in all of the risk categories that we have in front of us for risk to recidivate. He's completed the programs that he's been asked to, and during hearing today, he was able to talk to us about what he learned and how he's going to work to prevent these things from happening again. Talked about his release plan. He's a therapist, a psychologist, and some potential job opportunities and support from his family. He talks about wanting to work to be able to spend time with his children in the future at some point, and how important church has become to him since he's been incarcerated, and his plans to continue that for additional support when he's out in the community. It looks like he's wrapping up the fatherhood program now. Should be done soon. But the nature of circumstances and what the victim said is difficult. It's not an easy decision to make. And, I'd like to hear what my colleagues are thinking and how you feel you guys took from his interview with us today.
Thank you. What are your thoughts, Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, I'm also challenged by the nature of the offense, obviously, and as I shared earlier, I had trouble with just a month ago, still, or a month and a half, however long ago the parole officer interviewed Mr. Quealy, his response in terms of still kind of not really taking full responsibility for his actions. And that's not to say that he hasn't gained anything from the program he's taken. Obviously, hearing him today, it sounds as if he's learning some things and gaining some things. I thought the statement from the grandfather was very, very powerful, and what the impact was on this particular victim, and that this victim will be carrying this probably forever. I'm not in a good place with this. I see his progress. I understand that he's rated low going out. If he's on supervision, if he does anything, he could be brought back. He's going to have to take treatment on he's outside in the community. There's no way he can escape that. So he's going to have to do that. That's not coming. We're not really ending his sentence. He's just continuing it in a different perspective in a different way, which is through parole. So, I mean, I would consider his discretionary parole today. I want to hear from you, Madam Chair, see what you have to say about this, but I would consider it today.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. So I agree that this is a challenging case, and I also agree that the statement from the victim's grandfather was very impactful. And so, our jobs here today are to release those individuals that we believe will return to the community and become a contributing member of society. And some of the things that we look at when we are trying to make that determination is the support they have in the community, the programs that they participated in, how have they done in terms of their participation in the facility, have they received any disciplinary infractions, how do they rate out in terms of risk, and employment, housing, all those things are things that we take into consideration. And Mr. Quealy, in this instant, he's checked all the boxes, and that's not to negate that this wasn't an egregious crime, but I honestly believe that the strict supervision of parole would help him start getting the additional help that he needs with the program participation. He's 20 years of probation hanging over his head. And that's a lot of time to be under supervision. And it's right the way he knew it, it's going to be completely different. So, I would support his discretionary parole today. And I would add a stipulation that he have no contact with this victim or her family, and that he be assigned to the SMD unit so that they can properly monitor him in all of his interactions. So he has work, he has family support. I mean, so
Yeah, I agree. It's a difficult case, like both of you have said, and I want to make sure the victim understands, the victim's family understands that we have really taken this into consideration. It's something that we don't make this decision lightly. But he does appear to be suitable for discretionary parole at this time. He has met all the requirements. Not got a disciplinary reports, rates out low. He has opportunity for employment. He's going to be on very strict supervision.
Right.
I have some conditions that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I read the PSI. There was a note that we should suggest mental health evaluation and treatment if deemed necessary.
Yeah.
He's talked about that
Yeah.
throughout this. Also, problem sexual behavior treatment in the community.
Mhm.
No contact with minors without the parole officer's permission.
Mhm.
No contact.
And then, I had the victim, HW and the family. I also have one of his children, and without the parole officer's permission on my list. And we can talk about that more if you'd like, but there was some information in here.
Nope, I agree.
And that would be without the parole officer's permission.
Right.
He can, like I told him when we were talking, he can.
Figure that out. Yep.
He figure that out. It's not a permanent situation.
Right.
But we just, especially in the beginning here, they need to be very careful.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other conditions, Mr. Rodriguez?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. So we're ready with our official decision with regard to Garrett Quealy, 442650. I move to grant discretionary parole on or after his earliest eligibility date, which is July 10th, 2025, with the following conditions. In addition to the standard parole conditions, you are to have no contact with your victims or her family, initials HW, and we have the guardian as RF. You will have no contact with one of your children, MQ, without the parole officer's permission. You'll participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community. You are to have no contact with minors without the parole officer's permission. And you will participate in a mental health evaluation and receive treatment as deemed necessary. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, Mr. Quealy, you will receive all of this in writing. We appreciate your time, sir. We thank the victim for their input, and we wish you the best, sir. I would suggest, you have 20 years of probation to follow your sentence, sir. you need to really develop a good rapport with that officer, because if you don't, you'll be right back in prison. This is, the parole officers do have arresting powers, and so does the probation, but they have to go through a judge. But with parole, you come right back to prison. Okay, best of luck, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
This concludes the hearing for Garrett Wheelie, number 442650.
How is this a hard decision? How does the parole board sit there and say this is a hard decision? They literally, what they say to us makes no sense. The judge sentenced him to 20 years in prison, suspended after 15, so he has to serve a maximum of 5, and then 15 years of supervision. 15 years of supervision. He is going to be supervised for 15 years. Make it make sense where you say, well, we want him to have more supervision before his supervision. Nothing more he can do in prison. Let's let him out. With anybody with a couple of brain cells and empathy to rub together would know that this is insane. The grandfather says it so succinctly. He said it with the story that his granddaughter said to him. In school, 2 kids get in a fight and they get suspended for 2 weeks. Does the principal call them up after 2 days and say, okay, they can come back? No, that's not how it works. Not only that, but this roach, this Ch0m0, this monster, the fox in the hen house, he denies it. He denies it through the entire process. From the moment the survivors pointed him out, saving who knows how many countless victims, all the way up until his parole interview. Only now, when he knows he has to say it, does he say it so he can get released. And it's so clear, it's so vivid. The parole board even says, I'm skeptical that you're admitting it now. It seems a bit timely. And the grandfather, you could hear, it tore apart a family. There's literally half the family that has not heard him say he's guilty. That means every time he gets on a prison phone call, you know what their conversation is. She made it up. She made it up. And what does the parole board do? Even though they know this, they release him. They reward him. And why? So he can have supervision before the court orders supervision. That doesn't make any sense. Why? Because parole supervision will be more strict than probation? Give me a bloody break. He wasn't sentenced until 2023. His full term date should have been 1/9 of 2028. This parole hearing happened 5/28/2025. Because he only had to serve 50%, it's within, by the time they agreed on a plea deal, you can't even blink. And he's out. And he has these crazy stories. Oh, because it was me, and oh, I was sleepwalking, and oh, the medication, and it's how dare you? We don't know how old the victims, plural, were, but I have a feeling they're still a minor. I mean, the controlling offenses, risk of injury to a minor. C. That was the plea deal. You know, the thing that gets me the most, we know these roaches exist. They're all the same, the manipulation, the lies, the monstrous deeds. But what I can never get over is when the parole board actually says, well, there's nothing more you can do there. Let's go gaslight. Let's not send a lesson to the little granddaughter, the survivor, and say, you know what? We can have a teachable moment here. We can teach her that there are consequences, that the law does mean something. But not only that, we can reinforce bravery. We can send a message. But instead, none of that thought process is there. There's no account for retribution. He wasn't rehabilitated. It was a month ago that he had his different story. They should have made him sit there and admit everything and apologize for lying up until now, and still denied him. The evil. And if you for 1 second were listening to this and said, man, he was being honest. He was a victim himself, and he was so well and articulate in explaining it. I hope that you snapped out of that by now. I hope that you realize that this is nothing but a tool of manipulation. He's worse than those who can't articulate, because he can be more manipulative, scarier, more dangerous. He wants to be a therapist. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Imagine hiring him and you know what's going to happen one day? One day he's going to apply for a pardon. And we've seen this in Connecticut. I haven't published all of them for you, but I probably watched 50 Ch0m0s get their record expunged in Connecticut. Like it's never happened. They then can go and become kindergarten teachers, child therapists. And I'm not talking about 30 years down the road. I'm talking about 7, 8 years. We just had a woman who kidnapped a child. And she just got her record. She just got pardoned after I think 7 years. And she said at the pardon hearing, she wants to watch children again. And the child, she kidnapped the child's client. The offense was, I should be careful the words I use. I would articulate it as kidnapping. She took the child, lied where the child was, and then didn't answer the parents' phone calls for 7 hours, then lied to the police. But Connecticut's light on crime. They don't really care. And now she's going to be teaching kids again. Actually, she already is. Not teaching, babysitting. Like a parent wouldn't have the right to know that in someone's history before handing off their child to them. There's no info on this case. There's no information. There's no news reports. There's nothing to share. But I think that we seen it and heard it all right here. We clearly can see, there are some times when a decision is made and the parole board, they gaslight us and say, well, they have no supervision. So we know it's bad, but we need someone to supervise them, to hold their hand. So at least for a year, we know that they're not screwing up. Forget, the rest of the time. But this guy's got 15 years of supervision. There's no reason to. Oh, so it's more strict because parole supervision, they have arresting powers? No. F that. No one buys that. Doesn't make a bloody difference. This decision was so simple. And if the victims, the survivors, somehow ever come upon this hearing, I want you to know and just look at the comment section. We're not in our little own echo chamber. We're not the minority. We are actually the majority. Over 99% of you will agree with my sentiment. And that's why you come here and watch it. Not because my point of view is mind-boggling, is earth-shattering. No, it's because my point of view is your point of view. It's the common sense point of view. It's how we are all feeling and thinking. And we are all maddened when we see something that is so insane, that is so inexplicable, that doesn't have any rhyme, reason, logic, nothing. Yet those put in charge to protect us make these decisions time and time again. And I hope if you come here and you see this comment section, you will be validated in knowing how brave you were to stand up. Point your finger at the monster before you harm more. And that you are not alone. In feeling cheated by the law. And with that, I'll let you go.
I feel that if the inmate is released early, what are we showing my granddaughter? That even if you do bad things and you get punished, it just goes away. One of the examples that she had told me, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but she saw two kids in school that were fighting and they got suspended for 1 week. And then, after 2 days, the principal didn't call up the parents and say, hey, they can come back to school now. It's going to be okay. So I'm asking the board that you guys please do the right thing and stick to the agreed plea deal, which was 20 years suspended after 5 years. We need to hold people accountable for their actions and show that the court system works.